Okay, so on the back page, now they don't give you the graph. Now they're giving you a point. They're telling you if it's parallel or perpendicular, and they give you an equation. So we have to figure out the equation of the new line. So you guys are going to fill this up with the notes that we took in the front page. What do you know about parallel lines? They have the same slope. And what do you know about perpendicular lines? Negative reciprocals. You flip it and you change the sign. So you guys are going to write that down for those two. Okay, so right here, you guys just told me that parallel lines have what? Parallel lines have what? Parallel lines have the same slope. Write that down here. Same slope. Can you look at this equation and tell me what the slope is? Can you look at this equation and tell me what the slope is? -4. -4 is the slope because this is in slope-intercept form. So if it's next to the x, if it's in y equals and it's next to the x, that's the slope. Okay? So I already know the slope is going to be -4 because they're parallel. What I don't know is what the b is, what the y-intercept is. I need to find it. Okay? And you guys did this on Friday. So we're going to use that same formula. So I need you looking on the formula chart. And I need you to find point slope form. Point slope form. And we're going to use that formula. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Okay? The formula from Friday that we used. We're going to plug in the point that they gave us, which is -2.7. And we're going to use the slope that they gave us, which is -4. So I'm going to draw my line so I don't mix my lefts and my rights. For sure, I know that my slope is 4, right? So -4. So right here, I'm going to put -4. And then there's some stuff in the parentheses, and then there's some stuff over here on the left side. What else do you know? That y is 7. Look at this y right here. This is my y. That's 7. So right here, where it says y minus y1, that's y minus 7. Because they gave me 7 for the y. And then inside, what do I know? I know that x is what? X is -2. But I already have a minus inside. So it becomes a plus 2. Because it was minus a -2, right? And then this is x. So I just plugged in my numbers that they gave me to the formula. And now I need to work it out. So I'm going to move this -7 to the other side by doing +7, right? So that it cancels. And I'm also going to distribute the -4 to the stuff inside the parentheses. Okay? So what does it leave me on the left side? Just y. Y equals. What's -4 times x? -4x. What's -4 times 2? -8. And then +7? What's -8 plus 7? -1. So I have y equals -4x minus 1. That's the equation that I wanted. Look at the slope. Is it the same? -4. Same slope. What's the b? -1. That's my y-intercept. That's what I was looking for. So the equation that is parallel to this one and goes through this point is y equals -4x minus 1. Okay? What about example 2? Example 2 does not give you the slope right now. We have to find the slope. What's different from this one and this one? This one's in y equals, and this one is not in y equals, so we have to put it in y equals. So I have to solve for y. Okay, so if it's not in y equal form, we have to solve for y. So what's the first thing that I move? No. You have to move the x first. So this x has to go over here on this side. How do I get rid of it? Minus x, -3y equals 9 minus x. And then what's the last step? What's the last step? Divide. These two are multiplying. So to get rid of it, you have to do the opposite, which is divide by -3. Y equals, what's 9 divided by -3? 9 divided by -3. -3. And what's -1 divided by -3? -1 divided by -3. You guys have a calculator? No. Oh. -1 divided by -3. 1 over 3. It's a positive 1 over 3x. Okay? So if it wants it to be parallel, then what does the slope have to be? Positive 1 over 3. It's the one next to the x. Okay? So my slope, m equals, needs to be 1 over 3. What else do I need? I need my b. Okay? And I'm going to find it by using this point and this slope in the point-slope form. So I'm going to start it, and you guys are going to finish it. Remember, it's y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. I'm using 1/3 as my slope. Okay? And I'm using 3, -1 as my point. 3, -1. That's going to be my x and my y. So you can pause the video and finish that one, and then I'll start example number 3. We need to plug in the 1/3 right here. My y is a -1, so I'm going to put plus, y plus 1, because of that minus. And my x is 3, so that's x minus 3. You guys need to distribute, and you need to move the positive 1 to the other side, minus 1. Go ahead. So we move this plus 1, This plus 1 moves to minus 1. And that leaves me with y equals, distribute. 1/3 times x is 1/3 x. And 1/3 times -3 is a -1. Bring down the minus 1. What does this give you? -2. So my equation would be y equals 1/3 x minus 2. That means they have Same slope, right? 1/3. They're parallel, and it goes through that point 3, -1. All right, now the perpendicular one. So if I go down on example 3, this one is ready. This equation is ready. This equation is not ready. So you guys would have to solve for y on this one. Okay? But this one, they already told you that the slope is what? 2. The slope right here is 2. I need it to be perpendicular. So if one of the slopes, slope 1, is 2, what does slope 2 need to be? The opposite. So how do I do the opposite? Flip it and change the sign. Well, Ms. Mesa, how do I flip this? Well, this is over 1. Did y'all know that? It's 2 over 1. So when you flip it, what happens? It's 1 over 2. And we change it to a negative. So this is the slope that I want. I want the equation to have a slope of -1/2, because then that makes my lines perpendicular. So then you do the same thing. You're going to use this slope. You're going to use this point. Remember, that's my x and my y. And you're going to use point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Hold on. Okay, so we would plug in our numbers here with what we have. So again, I know that my perpendicular slope is going to be -1/2. So right here, I would plug in -1/2. Not the same slope, okay, because we want them to be perpendicular. And then we're going to use this point for 3. So my y is 3. That's y minus 3. And my x is 4. So that's x minus 4. And I'm not going to finish this one for you, but remember, you distribute and you move the -3 over to the other side, make it a +3. Okay? So you're going to finish that one. Let's go to example 4. I'm just going to start it for you. This is not ready. Okay, so do not tell me that the slope is 5. It needs to be in y equals. So what do you move first? The x. Move this over. It's going to be minus 5x. So right here, it's minus 5x. So now I have 3y equals -21 minus 5x. What's the next step? Divide. Okay? I got to get rid of that. So divide by 3 everywhere. So that's y equals, what's -21 divided by 3? We got to get our positives and our negatives in line. -21 divided by 3? -7. And what's -5 divided by 3? Over 3. -5 over 3x. Okay? So which one of those two is the slope? Which one's the slope for that line? -5 over 3. Do I want it to be the same slope? No, I want it to be perpendicular, right? So write this down. M1, my first slope is -5 over 3. What's my new slope? What's my new slope if I want it to be perpendicular? Not negative. I need it to change, right? If it's a negative, the other one's going to be positive. Change the sign. And you flip them. So it's +3 over 5. This is the slope that I want. This is the point that I'm going to use. That's my x and my y. You're going to plug it into the formula. The formula says y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Don't forget your line. Plug in the numbers. So my slope is 3 over 5. What's my y? 1. So y minus 1. and x plus